Welcome, everyone. I see we're here at the right time. I'm going to share my screen now. I'm very glad that now you can hear from some industry professionals, industry leaders, so that you know it's not just myself saying it in the class in a theoretical level, but you can see how this translates into practice. So very pleased that we will have two guest lectures from Implenia today. For those of you that don't know, Implenia is the largest general contractor in Switzerland, operating also internationally in many other countries. I won't say too much, maybe you could find this out yourself online. But first, we're going to have a guest lecture from Ray Bertschler about lean construction at Implenia. He'll talk for about 30 minutes, and then we'll have some time for Q&A. Then we'll take a 15-minute break, and we'll come back and do very much the same format, but this time we'll be talking about BIM at Implenia and starting the transition in the course as we talk more about digitalization and BIM planning. And Jochen Köhler, who's the BIM head at Implenia, will be giving that presentation.
Welcome also from my side. My name is Ray Bertschler, as Jochen already introduced us, me, and also Jochen. I'm, as he said, the global head lean construction within Implenia. But before we start, I like to just open the round with a short discussion about construction industry, and especially on, let's say, how the labor productivity has, let's say, developed in the last couple of years. And you see on the, just 1 second, I have to get my virtual PowerPoint laser. Okay, good. So on the left picture, you see basically, okay, how was the development of industrial good manufacturing? So it really was growing over the time quite extensively. And if you unfortunately compare it to the construction industry, you see there's a big gap, and the gap is getting bigger and bigger. I guess you all also have discussed this topic within some lectures you already had. Then another topic I like to focus is how the construction industry has used digitalization productivity. I mean, if you compare, or if you, let's say, have a look at the IT industry, there we have for sure a lot of digitalization in the whole processes. And you would say, okay, we are in another industry. Yes, that's true. But if you see where construction industry is compared to other industries that are also not, let's say, so familiar with IT, let's say agriculture, mining, oil and gas, you see we are, let's say, at the end of the whole story. So there is definitely a need to change within the construction industry. And I would say if a company like Implenia or other companies do not really use this change that will come, we will have, let's say, severe issues in the future. So that's a bit why we really have to have a look at all the newest, let's say, developments within the construction industry. So this is really important for the future for each and every company within construction industry. The agenda, I don't want to go into the detail here again. I mean, Daniel already explained. But before we start with what is lean construction for Implenia, I try to give you a short overview about Implenia. So for all you guys that are not knowing in detail what Implenia is as a company. And I would start with that picture. So assume you're sitting in the Implenia office in Oerlikon. You have a look out of the window. What would you see? You would see on the left side the station, the railway station, Oerlikon, was built by Implenia. You would see the Andreasturm. So it's quite a big building, also built by Implenia. You would see the Metropolitans, Wolkenwerk, and also Quadro. All these buildings were built by Implenia. You see, I mean, Implenia has quite a big footprint within Zurich, but that's not all. If you Google a bit, you would also see Implenia is building also quite intensively abroad. And That's also our mission. So what is the mission of Implenia, of the company Implenia? So we want to be the leading multinational integrated construction and real estate company. You see it in the claim, it's not only integrated construction, but it's also real estate. So real estate will have a, let's say, high priority in the future of Implenia, not only buildings, let's say. So what is our mission? We work with and for people to sustainably develop real estate and to construct buildings and infrastructure that meets their modern living, working, and mobility needs. So we really try to align also on the megatrends, where one of them is for sure urbanization and digitalization. So that just as you have an overview, what is vision, mission of Implenia. Now a bit facts and figures. Implenia is consisting of 4, let's say, divisions. First division is development, where we have the part of integrated real estate partnership. So there we, let's say, are the partner for our customers in terms of customized projects, scalable products, and comprehensive services. The second big division is building. Within buildings, we have our end-to-end construction service provider for all types, which means new build as well as refurbishment. Then the third division is civil engineering, where we have specialized civil engineering capabilities bundled, let's say tunneling, special foundation topics. And then the last of the 4 divisions is the division specialties, where we, let's say, bundled all the let's say niche units, for example, structural facing units that are not, let's say, would not fit perfectly to the other divisions. In total workforce, we have about 10,000 people worldwide. As I said, we are a multinational service construction provider. That means besides Switzerland, we are also active in France, Austria, Germany, Norway and Sweden. Huh? In terms of revenue, 2019, we had about roughly 4.5 billion Swiss francs revenue in total. How we realize our vision? I mean, there we have, let's say, 4 strategic priorities defined within Implenia. One is portfolio, like in most of the companies. The other one is profitable growth, where lean takes a really important part, lean construction. Then we have innovation, where we find at the end also BIM. And the 4th strategic priority is talent and organization. Always an important part of each and every company, I would say. Now a bit going deeper into the topic profitable growth, how we want to reach profitable growth. For us, let's say 2.5 years ago, we, let's say, started the Operation Excellence program within the whole Implenia group. This Operation Excellence program has 4 key elements. One is value assurance. So how we, let's say, select and execute our projects on a risk-based process. Then another important topic is procurement. So we try to, let's say, start global sourcing group-wide. Then, of course, one main topic is processes and systems. So we try to harmonize and standardize our business processes and systems. Therefore, we also, let's say, start with quite a big group-wide IT project, Inspire, where we try to bring the whole group on one platform, one level. And as I said before, lean construction is one of the, let's say, main key elements out of the Operation Excellence strategy. In terms of innovation, I already told you BIM is also an important part. So with BIM, or BIM is tackled within this digital capabilities section. Jochen, in the second part of our guest lecture, will talk about BIM a bit more in detail. Now, lean, what does this mean? I know that's not the nicest and the most modern, let's say, graphic. Most probably you also have seen that one, but still I think it's quite, let's say, picturing how it is. I mean, we have the optimist. How is an optimist thinking when he sees half a glass? He thinks it's half full. What would be, let's say, the thinking of a pessimist? Okay, the glass is half empty. So not the positive aspect. Now, how would a lean thinker think? What would be his question he would ask? And that would be clearly, why is the glass twice as big as it should be? So he always thinks, why is a situation we have? How we could improve such a situation. So that's the lean thinking behind the whole story. Not see it too optimistic, not see it too pessimistic, but really check what we could improve. Why is it like we have it now? So that's, let's say, the basis of the lean thinking. And I guess you already had some lecture about lean, so you would be familiar with that one. But now, besides the theory, why now we need transform our working methods within the construction industry. So why Implenia has to change now? And I like to start with, let's say, an example, a real example. So what you see on the left side on the picture, that's most probably part of you will recognize. It's the Letzigrund Stadium in Zurich. Now, what is the problem? Or what was the topics in the project execution within that project? I mean, one big topic was there were non-transparent contracts. Most of them were bilaterally taken or, let's say, agreed. We had a missing project culture. Collaboration was, let's say, poor on the project. And we had a lot of process-related deficits in planning and also in execution. And I mean, the bad thing out of the whole story is at the end, if we see where we ended up, 23 million extra cost. We had a lot of construction defects, so also not a happy client. And at the end, out of the whole story, we had legal conflicts of more than 10 years after we, let's say, have finished the project. So there's a clear sign that cannot be the future. We have to change something. And if you see on that slide now, or you see let's say a visualization of a typical situation of, let's say, classical construction projects. So execution can often not be conducted according to plan. Schedules are not kept, and budget exceedance occurs really frequently. So that you see here. And in addition, notice of delay, defects, and lack of resources hinder target-oriented constructions. Complicated schedules make it difficult to keep track of important to-dos and deadlines. And the flood of information you have within the project is, let's say, often really confusing communication pathways. And this turns out and creates really a lot of dissatisfaction among the whole project participants, but unfortunately always also within the client. So at the end, nobody is happy with the situation and nobody wins at the end. Now, what does lean construction help here? I mean, lean construction puts a central focus on the communication process and on the construction process, which means at the end, what we really try to do is at the end, accelerate the construction pace. We try to reduce cost, always with the focus on deliver the right quality at the end customer or the client is requesting from us as a company. And the Implenia approach at the end is based on our Implenia values. So as a lot of companies, also Implenia has, let's say, defined their values, which are agility, excellence, integrity, sustainability, and collaboration. And let's say we try embarking on the path to efficient and effective projects using lean principles, lean methods, and lean tools. Now, again, a bit the background. Now, what are our principles for us? Principles guide our actions. So they are, let's say, the guidance for us how we should act in terms of lean. Methods are required for the implementation of our principles and must be tailored to a specific project. So for us, it's really important. We do not want to use every method on every project, on construction project, but to really decide which kind of methods can help a project to be more efficient and effective. So we must, let's say, really define what kind of methods we use for each and every project. And then at the end, the tool just simplify the support of the application of the methods on a construction project within Implenia. Now again, what are the benefits at the end for our construction projects when we are applying lean? So there we have a clear target, what we want to reach when we, let's say, implement lean. So on one hand, we try to increase effectivity and efficiency over the whole life cycle. We want to have a more stable project management for all the involved parties. This means not only Implenia, but also our subcontractors, for example, and also customer, client. That's really important. So all involved parties. We try to have a more agile and short cycle project steering. We try to have a better planning capabilities for resources and their activities at a daily level. So we try to have a daily level of the planning. We try to, let's say, foster collaboration, transparency, and best practice sharing within the team and also between the projects. And I would say last but not least, I mean, it's really important to have a creation or a basis for a required continuous improvement process. And let's say, I mean, collaboration, transparency, and best practice, that's the base to really create an environment for continuous improvement. I know that's quite a busy slide, but we just try to, let's say, bring it on one slide together. Okay, now, if you say lean, that's only something you use normally in an industry, in a production facility. That's, in our opinion, not correct. You can use the whole topics also on a construction site. So for example, material availability, that is on a construction site as important as for a factory. Resource utilization, so which kind of resources we use where. The same story as in a factory or on a factory line. Digital tools, quite important. Controlled logistics, also really important. So we had a lot of, let's say, construction site where the trucks just approached the site just when they were ready. And at the end, we had, let's say, a traffic jam in front of the construction site as hell. So also the logistic wise or the logistic components are really important for a construction site. Then so order and cleanliness, also a really important topic. So where you store which kind of material and also how you do the, let's say, the clear layout. So where you do the disposal, all that topic needs to be clearly assigned to clear areas of the construction site. Then, of course, also planning, how you plan a construction site. This has quite a big influence of the productivity. And I mean, the core of the whole topic is always how you plan, how you tell your, let's say, subcontractors when they have to do what kind of work in which area. So there are a lot of, let's say, methodologies that help. So one is tact planning, the other one is last planner system. So there are a lot of, let's say, good tools you can use from the, let's say, lean area to really improve your core process on a construction site. So there are plenty of possibilities to really improve. Now, how Implenia has, let's say, rolled out their lean construction approach. So we have defined 5 elements: enablement and awareness of people, methods, tools, standards, lighthouse projects, maturity, lean organization, and network. In the following slides, I like to go into each of one of the elements and show you an example how we tried to, let's say, really implement lean within our group, our company. So for the first topic, enablement, we have created clearly a training concept. So we have 2 main training levels for all our employees. So basic level, so that's the first level, and the second level is advanced. And for each of the levels, we also have defined different target groups. So we have the external target group, subcontractors and partners. So they also get a certain basic training. We have the project team, where we certainly have a basic training as well as advanced training. And always important in the whole, let's say, transformation, in the lean transformation, it's not only that you at the end have to train your people on the project, but also the management. That's really an important part. So that's why we also have, let's say, training defined for the management role, basic as well as advanced. And building owner, which means also customer, they need to understand why we, let's say, implement lean, why we work with lean. At the end, they have to understand the topics behind that they also can support, because most of the time it's also important for a construction project that we get feedback, we get input, we get decision from the owner or our clients, also on an agile base. And that's why he needs to understand what is behind lean. So that's a really important part of the whole story. Do trainings for a common understanding within your company. Then second part of the whole lean transformation is standardization of the lean way of working. Therefore, Implenia has set up a lean toolbox. So what is a lean toolbox for us? A lean toolbox at the end is or gives guidance to the people about standards and examples, how they implement lean or lean methods on the projects. It always gives some illustrative examples and best practices for the people. So basically at the end, you can see in the toolbox, okay, on which kind of process step I am with my project, and you find appropriate tools. And all the tools are described within the toolbox, always with, let's say, four different areas. So each tool is always described about, okay, what is the target of the tool? In the toolbox, there is a clear description of the method, so what you have to do. We have some linked standards you just can use when you try to implement that tool, and you always have some examples. How we bring the toolbox to the people, at the end it's a simple SharePoint where all the people within Implenia group has access and find the relevant information. Then the third, let's say, part of the transformation is Lighthouse Projects. And I just brought you here a bit, let's say, the results of some questions that were asked after we have, let's say, ended a successful project according lean within Implenia. We asked all our partners and subcontractors as well as customer, okay, did you have seen a cost reduction and more than 60% said, yes, we have seen a cost reduction, so a positive feedback. In terms of quality improvement, there we even had 90%, so 87% said they saw a quality improvement compared to non-lean project execution. And then acceleration of schedules, also there, 75% of the asked people said, yes, we clearly have seen an acceleration of the schedule. So at the end, all positive feedback, and not only from, let's say, subcontractors, not only from Implenia internally, but also from customer. So at the end, everybody was happy. And for me, the most important question was, would you like to be involved again in a lean construction side of Implenia? And let's say most of the people, or almost everybody, said, yes, I like to work for the next project for Implenia again with lean. And I think that's really crucial and important for a, let's say, for a multiplication of the whole lean topic within the whole Implenia group. Then the second last part is maturity. And I mean, in order to continuously improve yourself, you always have to measure and see where are we and where we should go. And therefore, we have, let's say, two parts within the maturity element. So one is we conduct for each and every lean project so-called maturity assessment, project lean maturity assessment, where we assess the project 3 times. So always in the beginning of a project, in the middle, and at the end of the project. And we try to see, do we have a maturity level increase within the execution of the project? And why we do that, always we try to, let's say, on one hand, find some good practices, best practices we can share to other projects. And on the other hand, to really see if people are developing their lean thinking, lean methodologies within the execution of a project. On the other hand, what also is important to have a look at the whole organization. So let's say some country organizations. So as an example, it could be Building Switzerland, where we at least twice a year do an organization lean maturity assessment, that we see, okay, in, let's say, 10 different areas, how we see us. And where, for example, we have some really room for improvement, and where we, let's say, are already in a good shape. And important is also here, I mean, to execute the organizational lean assessment only once, that is not the whole story. I mean, you really need to see how you develop over the time. So over the time, of course, you need to increase within your maturity of a certain area. So that's why for us it's really important to measure. And then at the end, the last part is, sorry, I was a bit too fast, the lean metrics organization, how lean is embedded in the whole local business. So first of all, it's important to know within Implenia we have a support function, global project excellence and service, and within that support function also lean is sitting. And we are reporting solid line to the CEO on a global level. So that's what you see also here. So lean construction belongs to the, let's say, group support function, global project excellence and services, solid line to the CEO. But also in the country level, we have a lot of lean construction specialists, and at the end, they are, so the local lean specialists are there to do the implementation of lean together with the business. And on the global level, we try to, let's say, set the standardization on a global level. But at the end, I mean, always the focus should be on the operational project stuff. And that's, I have tried to, let's say, show you with that slide. So at the end, we have a lot of operational project stuff involved in different projects, in different, let's say, project phases. And on the other hand, as I said before, we have the lean construction specialists organization. Now, what is the role of our lean construction specialists organization? So the role is definitely train our people in the business to be able to execute their projects with lean methodologies and tools. So we are the trainers of our people on the projects, and therefore we need also some, let's say, ambassadors, some special people within the business that are really committed to lean, and we need to really identify these people, train these people, and really use these business experts, so these business ambassadors, to really drive the whole lean multiplication. So that's one core stuff. So we will not build up lean specialists that at the end do lean for the project people on site. We try to enable our people, our business people, to work according lean. So that's the clear strategy. And of course, you always have to measure. We have a clear Power BI dashboard set up to measure all these 5 key areas where we are, where we have set up certain initiatives, and what is, for example, the use of the methods on the different projects. But now, also one really important fact is how we use at the end lean on the project. How does it look like if we start a project? It's always like that. When we start a project, when we have won a project, there is always the first step to have a kickoff meeting between one lean specialist of the local organization together with the project team. And what do? They go through the project and they analyze the risks. So we start with a new project. What are the risks? What are the learning out of, let's say, similar project you have executed? And how could lean support, let's say, the project in mastering this risk a bit better or easier? And out of that, we define in a kickoff meeting, okay, what kind of methods and tools are useful to implement in that project. So it's not that for every project we do the same. It's really we try to analyze the project, see the risk, and decide together with the project team what could be helpful for them. And of course, at the end, we will see some methods and tools for project structuring, overall process analysis. So this element will appear everywhere in every project. Of course, we have more or less in every project some shop floor management elements. We need to consider constructural elements. So at the end, we need to bind our subcontractors to lean. We need to have a clear logistic planning. So if logistic is, let's say, a high risk within a project because let's say the construction site is within a big city, then there you need to put focus and you need to have a bigger logistic planning than when this is not a really high risk. Then we again will have some project trainings with the people, and then we have the setup of the construction site, including also the setup of, let's say, how you steer at the end a construction site. So it's always a joint work between the construction specialists that introduce lean on the project, coach the lean topics, and the project team that at the end really is implementing the lean in his daily business work. And it's not only within execution, we also try to start already within tender phase with some lean topics. Good, so that's basically all. I know I'm a bit over time already, but nevertheless, I would open now for questions and answers.
Thank you very much, Ray, and I'll give you a virtual round of applause with my Zoom window. and I see others are as well. So we have a few questions on the Jamboard. Once again, you can, for those of you just joining, if you go to our Google Jamboard, you can post your questions, or you can also feel free to just write it in the chat, or turn your camera on. But we have a couple questions, and I wanted to ask them to start off, and then maybe some students will join in if they would like to raise their hands. The first question I see was, someone wrote, what are the biggest obstacles to implementing Lean in Switzerland?
I mean, I would say culture. So it's not that people do not understand the tools and the methods. It's just that they don't understand why it's important. We just had, the biggest obstacle is really that construction business has quite a different culture or maturity compared to, let's say, the industry. So you really have to prove and show people that it really helps to be more productive. And at the end, something that was always helpful to show them, listen, if you allow us to try something and you're open for, let's say, a new methodology, at the end, what could be the good fact for you is that you leave the construction site earlier and in a more relaxed way. So it really helps also your daily business work to be a bit more easier. So that was one of the door opener we always try to put on the table. So it's always a cultural topic. People always tell you, okay, we have done it 20 years like that. I know how you do it, how to do it. I do not have to change. And I mean, let's say this behavior you not only have on the construction side, this behavior you also have in the management, in the middle management. And that's also, let's say, a big challenge in the whole story or in the whole journey.
And again, if you would like to ask a question with your camera, please just use the raise hand button. Otherwise, I'm going to just ask a couple more on the Jamboard. I think this is a good question because we played the version of the airplane game online. It was a house building game. We did push and pull production, and we found that in the pull production setting, the students were much more relaxed when they were building compared to the push production where they had this big backlog of work. And someone asked a similar question: how do workers feel about the impacts of lean management compared to the site operation as usual? So how do you think the workers feel when they're implementing lean management on Implenia projects?
I mean, worker, you really mean the blue collar worker? I mean, yeah. I mean, you have seen it in the movie, and also you have seen it in the movie you had as a preparation to go through. I mean, people at the end really saw they have clearer, more structured work packages. They know exactly what they have to do. So it really helps also the people on the construction site. So really the blue collars to be, let's say, happier at the end. They go after a day and they see exactly, okay, what was the target to do today? I have managed to do it. I'm happy. So it was also really clearly seen that at the end we had less, let's say, talks between the different subcontractors because we had much higher collaboration on the construction side, and that also helped, I mean, the atmosphere on the project to really improve. And this at the end also was positively recognized by the blue collar people. So they really liked working on a construction site at the end. And I must really say it's not a marketing movie. They really liked it. And we have a lot of, let's say, site manager, project manager that would never ever do it without lean for the next project. And I think that's the basis for a multiplication. That's what we need to have, exactly that one.
I think that's relevant to this question. Someone asks, what amount or percentage of all Implenia projects is done with lean?
Much too less so far. I mean, we started the whole lean journey within the building, let's say, division. There, for example, we have, let's say, 20-25% of lean projects compared to, let's say, classical projects. But important there is a lot of projects nevertheless have some elements already in. For civil, we just started up with pilot projects last year. But to, let's say, speed up this whole journey, there was a quite important decision made within the executive committee of Implenia. So, I mean, I've said it a bit, Implenia has 4 categories of value assurance. So category 1 is the biggest project, 2 the second biggest project, and 4 is, let's say, the smallest project. And we have a clear decision made by the executive committee that all projects, class 1 and 2, will be as far as we got the let's say the project, or we got the offer, the order, we execute accordingly. So in the future, all class 1 and 2 projects have to be accordingly. They have to have a start discussion with a lean construction guy to define what are the challenges and where we can help with lean. So you see there is a clear management decision behind, and they want to see lean on every project. And to, let's say, speed up this topic, they have made a quite strong decision recently. And that's really important.
And the last question, it's my own question, so I'm cheating a little bit, but oh, I see another one. Okay, I'm going to ask this other one that just popped up instead of mine. Do you think lean management is only required for larger projects or also for smaller projects?
Also for smaller projects. I mean, for me, the key is really to understand what is the challenge of a project. So if you have a smaller project, maybe the challenge is not logistic. Maybe the challenge is less planning than more, let's say, tidiness or something else. So always ask you before you start with lean on a project, what is the challenge? What are the learnings out of, let's say, similar project, and what kind of method could help to be more effective and more efficient? And it does not stop with only big projects, not at all.
Great. So I think we're going to stop there. We'll take a short break and have part 2 of the guest lectures. So meanwhile, once again, thank you, Ray, and I give you another virtual round of applause for introducing us to lean construction at Implenia. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
So my name is Jochen Köhler. I'm now for 5 or 6 months with Implenia. Before I was on a supplier side for formwork and scaffolding, and they're responsible for all digital and BIM topics. And so I have a lot of insights to other general contractors or companies within the BIM community, also worldwide. But today I will just give you an overview about how we understand BIM at Implenia, and just show you some examples about typical use cases behind. And also the third part is one ongoing development where we are working on at the moment, just to give you an impression about the possibilities also around the BIM topics and the way how we start these kind of initiatives or developments to bring further BIM products, how we call it, to our construction sites or to our design phase, and so on. So yes, in Implenia, we say virtual models in the center of the processes. So the models are really the key for a lot of BIM-related topics around the whole processes or life cycle of a project. But it's not only 3D modeling at the end, it's really to get the information out of these 3D models. I will come later also to more in detail to this topic about the challenges we have here. So I also will tell you something about the challenges. But as I said, the key is often really then to get the data, the digital data out of the models, that we can use them really to do better work preparation, to really know exactly the scope, know exactly the quantities for calculation phase, but also for the execution phase later on site. So that's very, very important to get this information out of the models more or less in an automatic way. When we see in the past, we had always the physical resources, and then we did some, we have material, we have people, and then we start to produce something, and then at the end we got a physical product. But with BIM, we go more into the digital design, planning with BIM related topics, digital twin. You see you heard this term, I think, very often. Then out of this comes the costs and dates, the processes behind how we want to produce, and all this information we use then in a digital steering that we coordinate the design phase, the planning phase, steer and control the status of a project in the design phase, but also in execution phase. And there we are also very close linked to the whole lean team, as you heard before. Also, I am sitting together with Ray in the same office, so I think there's a lot of possibility to work together and bring both topics, yes, to the people in the company, but also to our customers or suppliers, and so on. And for sure, also the final goal behind is to have a as-built model that we can also use for the facility manager on a long-term base to have the benefits out of a digital twin over 50 years life cycle of a project, for example. Then we will again also heard similar things from Ray before, that we want to reduce the risk in our projects, to be in time, to be in costs and in budget, and for sure at the end to deliver a high quality product with all our doings. And there we focus always on the whole life cycle of a project, not only on the 3D model, like building information modeling. We also say we do the building information management. Or I heard in German also a really nice term for BIM. It's bewusstes integrales Miteinander, for all of you who can speak German or understand German. But I like the term because it's really focused on the collaboration topic and working together. And always we have to look on the whole life cycle of a project, where we can spend with digital tools, with new methods, with new way of planning or also execute our projects, where we can spend better value based on the main minimization of risk for schedule, costs, and quality. And there's also a challenge. The challenge is that we have different phases of a construction project, but always different requirements to a model, to the data we need, depending on the offer phase or modeling phase. In a really early stage, it's completely different if we compare it to the execution phase, when we want to produce. There we need a production model. So and these challenge really to have a continuous or consistency of data through the whole life cycle of a project is really a challenge, and it's not covered so far. So it's not really working in some areas, yes, but not in all areas. And we want to build up really a common environment where we can bring all these things closer together. So you see here some applications also Implenia is using. So we have with RIP-I2 a kind of data-based management system which we use in the offer phase, in the calculation phase, but also in the work preparation phase, and up to the bringing everything then to the people on site. And that's something I think Ray also mentioned, that is, we call it as a big change project, Inspire, where we want to implement this starting from next year at Implenia, Switzerland, for the whole first area, the calculation purposes, and then bringing it more and more really as a, let me say also common data environment system to all or to the whole landscape of products or software types in the Implenia organization. Then another picture here, I come to the challenge between the different requirements to a model. So you see here the different phases of a construction project, where we have in an early stage, where we are in a development phase, where we want to find the best solution for our buildings. So we do not exactly know how it will look like. So we working together with architects to find here a solution. I will come to this later also in detail, how this process looks like. And then when we go more into the calculation purpose, then we need other information related to the model. And when we go more in the direction to the execution, then for sure we need production data. And finally, we want to bring everything to the construction site, that the people on site can yes, have value out of the data we created before, and really to improve the execution phase. And for sure, at the end, the digital twin for facility management would be also nice to have. And it's for sure also a goal for the future to improve this step by step. But first, we have to solve all these different kind of requirements and cover them, hopefully step by step in a whole system. So what I said, the best fit model is based for several BIM products. So we call it BIM products. It's the 3D data and the related metadata. But we have these different model requirements from architectural competition, for the cost calculation, work preparation, then for BIM to field. So the construction site again needs other information, and the facility management. And that's something we really sometimes struggle, and we still have to develop a good way to handle these different kind of requirements. Another factor, I mentioned this here, the influence factor is an additional challenge, that we not always do model authoring by ourselves, internal. We also do it with external partners, where we order this as a service. But we also are involved in projects where we have no influence to the external model. And that's really makes it even more complicated to handle all these different kind of requirements. I just have pointed out here a little bit again how we have a look on this process here, that we have at the beginning of a project. We have a kind of yes, target, what I mentioned before, with the cost, the schedule, safety, quality, and out of the targets we can describe it in a BIM execution plan. And there it starts. If we do the model authoring internally, then it goes in this direction. And we have other requirements if we do it internally. When we order, or when we buy it as a service from an external architect or planner, then we can influence it. Then we define the standards in the BIM execution plan for the architect, and he has to deliver what we're asking for. But sometimes the architect or the planner, structural planner, is related to the owner of the building, and so there often we have so far no influence, so no BIM execution plan available. And so out of this, we have three different kind of streams where we do model authoring, and that means also the results could be completely different. And so we have to develop in a first step really quality checks for approving models we receive from external with influence, but also from external without influence. Or in this case, for example, we also have to develop tools how we can enable an external model without influence to get at the end a high quality model, which we then later can use for in the design phase, or in the calculation phase for our offers creation, or quantity takeoff, or 4D simulations. And for sure later other steps are coming when we go into the execution. But I just want to point it out for you that really there are several levels of challenges we have to cover in this whole process to optimize really the constancy of data within a project. Again, when we talk about BIM at Implenia, we also often talk about the BIM is a big puzzle. So, and we want to categorize it in different categories, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and develop different several products behind. That's how we pointed out, and still the puzzle is still growing, and in some areas the puzzle still is visual. So there we have solutions, there we have standardized things, and that's something we want to scale as much as possible, bring it to the whole Implenia organization to implement it there. And the other puzzle pieces we step by step are developing. So at the end of my presentation, I will show you one actual development in this area. The categories, just you don't have to read everything. We categorized it in 19 categories. For each 19 categories, we have a detailed description about what's behind, what we understand behind. And again, for example, for model authoring, there's related to the different divisions at Implenia. This is an example for the division civil engineering, where they describe more in detail really what's behind model authoring in this category. What is the description? What are the goals and benefits? That's also often very, very important really to think about. What is really our goal? What are the benefits? Is there a value behind in comparison to the effort we have to spend to develop something new? And some examples, and here you see the products behind. So for in this category model authoring for the civil engineering area, for example, we have already 6 different products, we call it, and a little bit then what is the input we get to do this model authoring, what is the output, and what kind of software we're using. That's the way how we structured all these categories and products, and you can imagine 19 categories. In this category, we have for one division 6 products. How many products we will have at the end? So it goes over 100, and that's something also a challenge we have to cover at Implenia, really, to how we can provide all this information about the different possibilities or different use cases or different use of software, and in which project we should use what. Now I come to I think 3 examples how we use it in our projects. And I first start with the BIM in design competition. So it's an architectural competition, because as Implenia also do real estate projects. So we buy a piece of land and then we want to develop here projects, a building, flats or whatever. And there we really do our own design competition with architects. And in this case, the base is here a simple design, more generic ones, as a 3D model with a normal CAD software, where we could then for sure get out of this automatically the layout plans from the 3D model. And for us in this design competition, it's very important really to have the comparison then between different solutions. We want to have an overview about for sure the visualization of the project, but also about the data. Again, the data is key in this, really, to make the right decision at the end. And let me see if it's running, because it's not running. There's normally a video behind. I can just see. No, it's not running. I did this test before, but come on, let me see it. Now here. Now it's running, and you see that we are looking always for possibilities. You still see my screen, yes? Yeah. The possibility is really to really showing these kind of data then in a specific dashboard, really that we have the possibility to make the right decisions based on the data out of a model, directly automized. That's the goal behind. So what kind of flats, which areas, which size, you can really have a look in this specific dashboard, really to get a feeling what is the best solution we should build. So here we have in the design competition, the target process is really that we get, or we first have, because it's our own competition, that we really define clearly the requirements to the architects, and then they can create out of this, let me say, more simple BIM model, and then the most important point is then to automate the data extraction out of the model, that at the end the jury can do the best decision for the project we want to build. So that's one yes thing one process we are using already in our projects. At the moment we are starting 1 or 2 additional new competitions right now. Other topic is then more going in the design phase. So when we do yes, model creation for the calculation phase, or later for the execution phase, and there we also say we do more. We should focus more on collaboration instead of coordination. So key is really to bring all the different areas of a project, like the wood modeler, like the fire protection model, like the system, the MEP systems, or the architecture model, which came out of the competition. And there again, we can clearly define our requirements in a BIM execution way, plan, for example. But then when we really do the design together with the different stakeholders of a project, we really have to have these bi-weekly coordination meetings, really to improve in during the design phase the whole quality of a model. And that's also something where it plays together with a lean approach, really to focus here on bringing all people together who are involved in a project to find the best solution we want to build later. For sure, there we are using different kind of tools really for clash detection, for issue management, really just to clarify directly at the 3D model how a solution should look like and who is responsible for the change until, for example, the next weekly coordination meeting. And for sure, out of this coordination BIM model, you can use you can have additional processes to extract data again, really to visualize everything in a 4D sequence that we really can show what we want to build. And here an example for the standard that for the BIM execution plan, that we have clear naming for everything, how it is classified, also how it's classified in IFC. That's really these kind of definitions are key for later processes who are coming, really to have their big value or big benefit out of structured data. So first structuring, describing everything, BIM execution plan, and then starting with design is key. And here then we can bring out of the model all the information around the parts of the model, the description, what kind of information should be attached to the 3D model, and which is, are the information project related, or are the information let me see, non-project related or standard yes, information or data attached. So that's very, very important. And then, for example, here the workflow coordination, we have different parts of for building, or stakeholders, the architect, the Bauingenieur, HLSKS, sprinkler, electro, and all this is coming together in a reference model. And then with the different specific models, we bring it to a coordination model. And finally, we can reach out to a complete model. We call it then production model, how we really want to produce outside in the field. And for sure, these is everything is scheduled in additional, and the models is always the core for the coordination and collaboration here, to have at the end a best fit model. And that's also then mentioned in a BIM coordination plan schedule, how we bring everything together per week. And this could be several rounds, really, to have at the end the high quality model. Depends always how many collisions or issues we identify during the coordination meetings. Then getting ready for the real work. So I mentioned this already. We want to really have in the design phase finally a kind of production model, and there I just mentioned to you one example also in the Lokstadt in Winterthur. As an example, in the past, the design process was always based on more or less 2D plans, and in this case, out of this, the wood construction here, the wooden project, produces out of the 2D plans a kind of production model 3D, and use these data of the production model for the digital production. And here in this Lokstadt project, we had already a planning model, a designed model, and what we improved here, and it's not already done, it's partly automated, so it's not 100% working so far. We still have to do some things manually, but that's something we always look on, how we can really improve this process to bring a more or less architectural model to a production model, to then produce really our wooden parts, to bring them finally on the construction site. And here again, it's really very important to specify each part, which parameters should be attached to each part, how should they look in detail for documentation purposes, and so on and so forth. In detail, you see here again the comparison between the different kind of models. We have to really figure out how we can handle these different project steps. So at the beginning, we just have an architectural model. You see just a straight wall, no really technical solution how it should work. Then it starts with a basic model based on a wooden construction, and finally it has to be detailed really as a kind of production model, how it is later really prefabricated, produced, to bring it then just in time on site. So the architect normally does only this, more or less, yes, straight walls. Architects don't care about really how they want to produce it later. So that's something who the engineers then have to cover, and really to improve this process, that we can work on the same models or on similar models, that we just use as much as possible information from the architecture model to the first basic model, and then to the really production model is key, and is always still a challenge. So we not covered everything around this, but we see a lot of opportunities to improve these kind of processes. And wooden construction is here only one of the examples, or several examples we see here in the construction industry. And here you see just then prefabricated elements, which are then were produced just on site, just off-site, and then brought by piece of cakes as pre-assembled parts on site, and put there just together like a Lego part. And that's also one focus from our side, how we can use more prefabricating technologies to really bring then these pieces to the construction site, to be then directly on site faster by assembly the whole structure. So last but not least, now I before I mentioned the categories and the products, and I want to show you now one example where we are looking in so far. So it's one category going into the reality capturing technology, and there we started at the beginning just with we want to do something with drones and photogrammetry, and out of this we want to go in the direction of creating somehow a model of perhaps then for progress monitoring or quality. But then very soon we saw, okay, there are different kind of technologies related to capturing, like drone vehicles, handheld scanners or stationary scanners, and everything has to do something with capturing. And if we want to do part of or use part of the technology, we have always to look into all these different possibilities. And therefore, for example, I hired a young student from the university who started now for a few months ago, who now really collects all the available data, because also there, or available experience at Implenia, because we did a lot of projects in the past where we just tried something, and now we brought everything together of these different kind of initiatives at Implenia, really to identify at the end the right products in this category, reality capturing, really to develop a standardized way how we're using this kind of technologies. Also, and that's also something really exciting for this young student, or now employee, that we also working close together with smaller startup companies. You see 3 of them we are working at the moment with, all paying into the reality capturing topic. .scene, I will show you later also there an example, is capturing really in a quick handheld scanner way data from existing structures. And Scaled Robotics and Immerso are companies who are comparing a captured point cloud with pictures or with laser scanning, and compare them automatically with the available BIM model to do work progress and also quality check directly there with a fine dashboard. And that's something really we improving, and that's the way we first look what is the possibility to capture data. What can we create out of the captured data, like a point cloud, a mesh, to get volumes for calculation purposes, digital terrain model, really for excavators and earth movement, really. So again, data out of the point cloud. But then the third level then is really now how can we use this data for progress management, quality check, or even for billing purposes. And we learned that first we have to cover the capturing topic before we can do the second part and the third part. So if we want to do a quality check, we first have to cover all 2 other parts before. So there are different layers of development of these kind of technology. And just that you see an impression, I mentioned this .scene. You see here a small point cloud. It's Felix Platter Spital in Basel. And what do you think, how much time, how does it take to capture this point cloud of this whole building? Yes.
Well, I would say it used to take a very long time, but I'm curious to know how fast it happens now.
So it took us 3 hours.
Wow.
So for one floor, 25 minutes. And it's covered everything from inside. So we only scan from inside. You see, we just hold the scanner out of the windows just to capture a little bit of the surrounding. And yes, it was done then. Yeah, done in 3 hours, and the next day we had already in this cloud-based viewer the available point cloud. And there you can directly start to mesh something, ready to say, let me see the height from here to here. So it's about 3.66 meters. So it's a first quick win, really, to have really fast, good data for other purposes like measurement, for calculation purposes for the next step here in this building, for example. So it's.
And sorry to interrupt, but from my side, it's very exciting to see this. I've watched the research on point clouds imagery construction for the last 8 to 10 years, I would say. And, you know, it started from quite a ways back, but now to see it being used in industry is really exciting to see how far it's come. And the fact you can do this in 3 hours, it's pretty impressive. It's now at the industry ready level.
Yeah.
So
no, absolutely.
For students, it's a very promising future technology for students to be aware of. So.
Also, there, if someone is interested here, we still also in this area we're looking for some master thesis or something like this. Yes, so that's just on site. Here you see this young student I hired from he came from the university in Constance, and that's a really exciting job opportunity at Implenia, really to work with this handheld scanner. There's a Leica handheld scanner with our drones, also with a stationary scanner, or here in this case, and exactly that's the area we covered with this point cloud here. See exactly that was the area. Okay. Now I am open for questions and answers.
Thank you very much, Jochen, and we give you a virtual round of applause as always. Yeah, so we have 6 questions already on the Jamboard, and others if you would like to put your questions there. I think it worked well that I just read them out, but again, please just raise your hand if you would prefer to ask your question directly. So maybe I'll just pick one and we'll start there. You know, I thought that this was really interesting that as a starting point, someone asked, if you decide to use BIM in a project, what do you do if some stakeholders do not want to use BIM? And is a BIM model still strong if only a few stakeholders use it to share information?
Yeah, it's always a challenge. It's like also Ray said, and it's a kind of culture. And there are a lot of people who still say, I don't see the benefits. So I always say we really have to sell our products. We have to sell our BIM topics and just not start with too much. I think that's perhaps a mistake in the past, which happened a lot. The people really started a lot of different initiatives, and at the end, everything works only well. Yes, and not really good. And so I always mention to the people, let us show them the whole flowers we have in our hand, and then pick out only 2 or 3 roses, and we start with them. And really then taking care that they have the best benefit as possible. But I think there are in this puzzle, and the puzzle pieces, there are so many puzzle pieces who really spend directly a value. So it makes absolutely sense really to look on them and just pick them out and do them, and then they really spend the value we expect out of this. And always ask or think about what you want to do, and not talk so much about we are doing now BIM. Talk about these puzzle pieces you want to do.
It's a great answer. Next question, and this is speaking about design competitions, which you mentioned. In the design competition, are there still differences in BIM model quality despite the clear information requirements? And then I think the second question is, if there are differences in model quality, how do you deal with that?
Yes, yeah, for the design competition, we have other requirements to the model. So that design competition, often the models are more generic. They are not really detailed. And for do a comparison, we need other figures like only the CIA surfaces or cubic meters or whatever, or volumes of rooms or square meters of rooms. And we want to cover this in a kind of automatic created dashboard. But also there we have a challenge, or we see a challenge, which we are covering also in a development project at the moment, that we first write always a BIM execution plan, or a kind of yes, requirements we want to get, or models we want to get from the architects, but still we have to check them manually about if they have the right quality. And there we are looking at the moment for tools in the market, or perhaps we will develop our own tool to do this kind of quality check automatically. So our goal is at the end to provide a platform where the architects can upload their models, and there in the platform an automatic check is done. And if the check is not correct or not 100%, the architects cannot finalize his upload. But automatically he gets a BCF file, which he can then visualize in his authoring system again to see what's still missing. So, and that's the yes, almost done for the metadata information. That's the easier way. For the really yes, quality check of the 3D elements, it's still a challenge.
Next question. Have you already completed a project with BIM where you could measure an increase in quality or efficiency?
Good question. So for me, I'm now 5 months with Implenia, so it's I can say not, but I think there are several benefits behind. The feedback is great. But for now, I cannot really say this project 10% better. That's not, but I'm sure there is a lot of value and benefit behind.
And I'm going to ask these two questions together because they're about challenges. So the first is, what are the biggest problems you've had with BIM so far? And the second one, which is kind of similar, is what are the other challenges with the application of BIM despite the quality of the BIM models data? So in other words, not the problems with the data, but are there other problems like communication, or they also write contractual agreements? So what are the kind of non-technical challenges of BIM?
Yeah. One challenge is really the contractual side. You're right that we also have to talk to our procurement people, really, to how we can implement our requirements in our contracts with our suppliers, with the bow engineers and so on and so forth, with the architects, really, that we fix it from the beginning in our contracts what we expect, because always if you come later, yes, you have not so good cards really to get what you want at the end. That's for sure a challenge around. Then I think also the culture or the change process around BIM. So from the people side, I always say people, BIM is on one part is really the software and technology side, but on the other side, really we have to take care about the people and how much change a person or organization really can handle, and that's really a challenge here behind. And perhaps the third part is also that within the Implenia organization, again, that there are often really several initiatives. The business, the building division, or the civil engineering division started, and we sometimes don't know from each other. So the reality capturing topic was one really good example, good worth example for this, because as we ask people outside in the Implenia organization, we got so many information what they did already in the past, but nothing was really thought to the end and standardized as a really Implenia process. And that's in a huge company also really a challenge, how we can bundle these different initiatives that yes, the division also within the division building, for example, Germany and Switzerland, there is not so big exchange between these similar areas, and that's something we are also working at the moment, building up a kind of internal BIM community, really to have on a regular basis exchange. But the biggest challenge, I would say, is really the change process, really to that the people trust in the new technologies, new softwares, new devices, and really want to change.
Good. The next question, and Ray, you can comment on this as well. Does the BIM model also incorporate lean management information, including divisions of areas, work progress, and so on? And maybe this is also a good advertisement for the upcoming master thesis that we plan. So.
Yeah, for sure. Also, Ray can support me here, but I think that's the reason why we are also sitting together in one office, because at the end we have to bring all these things together. So and for example, we are working at the moment also for internal training, lean training, model based. Really where we show the people how we can bring all these things together, that you get out of the model already information you need for your lean planning, for example. So yes, last planner system or whatever.
Exactly. I mean, perfect answer. I mean, for us, speaking lean and BIM, I mean, the biggest challenge is normally that Implenia is still thinking in silos. So the people from planning are in a silo, the people from, let's say, calculation are in a silo, and then people that at the end do the execution of a project are also in a silo. And lean as well as BIM try to really break down these silos and really to, let's say, bring Implenia to a culture that all these people work together. And let's say, as I said, the main process to build, or the life cycle to build a building, infrastructure project is in the middle. And let's say BIM is a bit the technical background to make this, let's say, information flow through the different, let's say, phases of the project execution. And lean brings a bit the philosophy and the tools, how we bring the people together to work as a team, collaborative and agile on the topics. So it really goes hand in hand.
Exactly.
Right, and we will have some future master thesis research on the intersection of BIM and lean. So for those of you interested in the topic, you can come to our information event in November to hear more about that. All right, and we have a couple questions we just simply don't have time to answer. So thank you all for the questions. The last question I'll end with is to what extent shall BIM be implemented in your, I think, in Implenia's long-term strategy?
Again, to which level you mean?
Yeah, to which level? Yeah, you know, do you see BIM being important for Implenia's long-term
Yeah, absolutely.
strategy?
It's one of our key topics in our strategy, and I think as I said again, yeah, coming back to the picture with the puzzle. In my point of view, the puzzle is still growing, and when we today talking about different puzzle pieces and the let me say the digitalization of our processes and identifying the right tools to have really a continuous process through the whole life cycle, we in the next level we're talking about industrialization. I mentioned this in the prefabrication offsite production, really to bringing then the walls, the floors, so the whole parts of a building by truck on site, really to have the possibility to produce in an industrial way, and that there also BIM pays a lot of yes, points into these kind of processes, and that's also one of our strategy pillars we want to go in on a long-term base.
Great. With that, I do want to say once again, thank you, Jochen, and again, thanks to Implenia overall for participating and for giving these great guest lectures. So thank you very much. I actually can't find my clapping emoji right now because I have too many screens, but I would be clapping.